first saw that there is a fake knowledge of Jesus. There is an imprecise knowledge of Jesus. There is a picture of God and a picture of Jesus that leads to a fake freedom. People were promising freedom, and then those who followed them ended up in bondage to sin. And so when someone tells you, look how free we are, let's go sin, look how free we are to sin, that is a fake freedom. Freedom to sin is only a fake freedom. It's freedom from sin that is real freedom. And that's the freedom we have in Jesus Christ, to learn and grow and escape. Peter uses the word escape the ways of the world, the ways of the flesh. And so a true knowledge, Peter opens his letter by saying a true knowledge of Jesus Christ actually leads to a couple of things: grace and peace. And so as you get to know God for who He really is, the result is grace upon grace upon grace, and I get stability, and I find peace, and I find rest. And so if your Christianity is leading you to stress and anxiety and fear, there's a surefire reason for that, and that is our image of God is off. It's not a true knowledge of Him. When we truly know Him, it's grace and peace and grace and peace all the way through. Now, I'm not talking about an emotion. I'm not saying you're always going to feel at peace. I'm not saying you're always going to feel gracious and act gracious. I'm not talking about performance and emotion. I am just saying that God, in the way that He treats us, is consistent. And as we get to know Him, we consistently enjoy peace from Him, and we also enjoy His grace toward us who believe. All right, so then this epistle, 2 Peter, it tells us that we have everything we need for life and godliness. You remember that means there's no more shopping. A lot of religious circles, a lot of denominations, a lot of flavors of Christianity tell us at the outset, man, things are great, things are awesome, you are saved, God loves you to death, He is crazy over you, and then 5 minutes later, it's get busy or else. If you don't get busy and stay busy, then you're going to fall from grace, you're going to lose your salvation, or you're going to be out of fellowship, or God is going to be ticked off at you. And so we see that the method that we start with sounds like really great news, and then eventually it becomes mediocre news, and then some of it actually becomes bad news. And we don't know the difference because we need to get back to what? To a true knowledge of Him, and that's what Peter is talking about. The other thing we saw in this epistle is that Peter said something peculiar about, that's almost like a tongue twister. Peter said something peculiar. I'm being careful today with all the P's. But Peter is saying something here about qualities that we can exude and enjoy. I mean, you remember that he names a long list of qualities, personal qualities, like character traits that can be expressed in and through us. And when he talks about these things, he says, if you lack these, there's a cure for that. And if you remember what the cure is, it's pretty awesome. The cure for lacking these qualities, get this, the cure for lacking these qualities is to remember your total forgiveness, to remember your purification. So I find that interesting because people are actually telling us today, some folks are saying that we need to sort of back off on that forgiveness message. We don't want to push it too far. We don't want to tell Christians they're too forgiven, because then that'll lead to what? Too much sin. So if I tell you you're too forgiven, then you'll go out and commit too many sins. Well, Peter is saying the opposite, that if I learn that I am way, way, way forgiven, then I'm going to have a way, way, way awesome expression of these qualities. So that's kind of backwards. That's kind of counterintuitive. Like, how does that even work? Well, apparently, as I realize I'm pure, I think pure. As I realize I'm pure, I act pure. As I realize I'm new, I act new. And so God's not naive. He's not silly in this gospel. He knows exactly what He's doing. He has set it up so that our mentality changes first. As we celebrate what He's done for us, our mentality changes first, and then our behavior and attitudes change second. So that's why we have to grow in the grace and in the true knowledge of Him. It's about grace and knowing Him, because grace teaches us to say no to sin. So it's all backwards. People are afraid of grace. We like grace when we failed. We like grace when we're on the ground. We like grace when we've fallen. We look at grace as just a rescue when we have performed poorly. But grace is actually the equipper. God's grace is actually the equipment that we need. God's grace is actually the fuel. God's kindness is the fuel for us to turn away from old ways and adopt new ways. So don't be afraid of God's grace. Don't be afraid of saying, God, show me your kindness. I want to know the richness of your kindness. I'm just asking you to reveal how good you are. I want to know your goodness in its fullness toward me, because I need to be fueled up today. Mentally, I need to be fueled up. And so I'm asking you to show me your goodness and show me your grace and show me your kindness and remind me of what it means to truly know you, because that's the fuel that new creations are meant to run on. So we got a bunch of people that have been redesigned to run on grace, and they're trying to run on law. We got humans that have been crucified, buried, raised, and redesigned to run on the fuel of grace, and they can't figure out why law doesn't work for them. So if we're grace creatures, we need grace fuel. Does that make sense? If we live by the Spirit, let us also walk by the Spirit. The Spirit of who? The Spirit of grace. The Bible calls Him that.